The Nile's current tugs at your ankles, a deceptively gentle pull that hides its power to drown. You stand waist-deep in the murky water, your bare feet sinking into the silt, surrounded by a dozen other slaves hauling reeds under the midday sun. The air smells of wet earth and sweat, and the distant croak of frogs is drowned out by the overseer's shouts. You're not just a person here, you're a tool newly captured from a village far beyond the desert's edge, dragged to this land of gods and monuments. Your wrists chafe from the coarse rope that bound you days ago, and your stomach growls, unaccustomed to the meagre barley gruel they call a meal. Egypt's grandeur, with its towering obelisks and golden statues, feels like a cruel joke when you're caked in mud and squinting against the glare. The overseer, a wiry man with a scar across his cheek, barks at you to move faster. His whip cracks the air a warning rather than a strike for now. You glance at the others, men and women, young and old, their faces etched with the same weary defiance. One, a boy no older than 15, stumbles under the weight of his bundle. You catch his arm, steadying him, and he mutters a thanks in a tongue you barely understand. Language here is a patchwork, but misery needs no translation. You learn quickly that survival means keeping your head down and your hands busy. The Nile's banks are alive with labour, some cut papyrus, others drag nets of fish, and you're tasked with gathering reeds for baskets and mats, the humblest of crafts. Yet there's a strange rhythm to the work, a pulse that syncs with the river's flow. You notice the way the older slaves pace themselves, conserving energy for the long hours. One woman, her fingers gnarled but swift, shows you how to twist the reeds without snapping them. Patience, she says, her voice low, or you'll bleed for nothing. Her advice is practical, but her eyes hint at something deeper, resilience maybe, or a spark of rebellion. You're not sure yet, but you tuck the lesson away. Historians still debate whether slaves in Egypt were mere chattel, or held some small agency in their roles, but right now agency feels like a distant dream. A peculiar fact catches your ear as you work the Nile's floods which feed this land, are timed so precisely that priests predict them with eerie accuracy using star charts and river gauges. It's a reminder that this world, brutal as it is, runs on knowledge you can't yet grasp. The day drags on and your shoulders ache from hauling. By dusk, the overseer herds you to a mud brick camp where you collapse onto a straw mat under a sky ablaze with stars. The air cools, but the ground radiates heat, and the faint hum of mosquitoes keeps sleep at bay. You're given a bowl of gruel and a scrap of bread, barely enough to dull the hunger. As you eat, you overhear two slaves whispering about the great stone blocks being hauled miles away for a pharaoh's tomb. Their words are laced with awe and dread, and you realise your reed gathering is just the edge of a vast machine. You're not building baskets, you're feeding an empire. The boy you helped earlier sits nearby, rubbing his blistered hands. You offer him half your bread, and he hesitates before taking it. "Name's Kiti," he says, voice barely above a whisper. You nod, giving your own name, and a fragile bond forms in the dark. Sleep comes fitfully broken by the creak of carts and the distant howl of a jackal. You dream of your village of faces you might never see again, but the dream fades as dawn's light creeps over the horizon. The overseer's shout jolts you awake, and you rise muscles protesting. Today you're told you'll leave the river for the quarry where stone awaits. The work will be harder, the sun fiercer, but you've survived your first day. As you trudge toward the unknown, Kiti falls in step beside you, his small frame hunched but determined. The quarry looms ahead, a scar in the earth, and you brace for what's next. Dust chokes your throat as you swing the copper pickaxe, his dull edge biting into the limestone with a grudging clink. The quarry is a jagged wound in the desert, its cliffs baking under a sun that feels closer than yesterday. Your arms tremble from the effort, each strike sending a jolt through your bones. The overseer paces the ledge above his shadow, flickering across the stone like a vulture's. "Faster, you dogs," he snarls, his voice hoarse from shouting. "You're too slow, and you know it. Every missed swing risks a lash." Around you, dozens of slaves chip away their picks and chisels, raising a gritty haze that stings your eyes. Kiti, the boy from the river, works nearby, his small hand struggling to wield a mallet. He's tougher than he looks, but the stone doesn't care. The rhythm of the quarry is a relentless strike pry haul. You're cutting blocks for some distant monument, maybe a temple or a tomb, though no one tells you what. The stones are massive, each one heavier than a man, and moving them requires ropes, sledges, and a chorus of grunts. You learn to lean into the work to let your body find the motion before your mind rebels. A man with a crooked nose who calls himself Amun shows you how to angle the pick to avoid splintering the stone. Waste a block and you're the one they'll break, he mutters, half joking. His advice saves you from a mistake, but his grim humour lingers. The heat is a living thing, pressing against your skin, drawing sweat that dries before it falls. Water is scarce, a single gourd passed around at noon, barely a sip each. Your lips crack and your tongue feels like leather, but you keep moving. Stopping means attention, and attention means the whip. The overseer's cruelty isn't random though. He targets the weak, the defiant, or the unlucky. You see a woman falter her chisel, slipping, and the whip finds her back. She doesn't cry out, just grips her tool tighter. You want to help, but Amun's glance warns you to stay focused. Survival here is a solitary art. A strange fact drifts through the haze. The limestone you're cutting glows faintly at night, a phenomenon the Egyptians call the breath of the gods. You haven't seen it yet, but the idea unsettles you as if the stone itself is alive. Historians still debate whether quarry slaves were fed better than field workers to sustain their strength, but your rations flatbread and a thin lentil stew feel like a taunt. By mid-afternoon your stomach is a knot and the bread you saved from breakfast is gone. Kiti shares a dried fig, his only possession, and you split it, the sweetness of fleeting mercy. The work shifts as the sun dips. You're roped into a team hauling a finished block onto a sledge. The ropes burn your palms and the stone resists as if it knows its destiny. You pull your feet, slipping in the sand until the block lurches forward. The team cheers a ragged sound, and for a moment you feel something like pride. But it fades when you see the next block waiting. The quarry never sleeps, it just chews through bodies. At dusk you're marched back to the camp, your muscles screaming. The overseer counts you like cattle, ensuring no one slipped away. Escape is a fantasy desert on one side, river on the other, and guards who know the land better than you. In the camp you collapse beside Katie, who's rubbing his bruised hands. He talks of his sister lost in another work gang, and you listen, offering no promises. The stars wheel above, indifferent, and the air carries the faint scent of smoke from the guard's fire. You're given gruel again, laced with grit that crunches between your teeth. Amun joins you, his crooked nose casting a shadow. He speaks of the quarry's dangers, falling rocks, bad cuts, exhaustion, but also of whispers among the slaves. Not rebellion, not yet, but a shared anger, a spark. You're too tired to think it through, but the idea sticks. Sleep is a shallow thing, broken by the groans of others and the ache in your limbs. You dream of the river, its cool embrace, but wake to the overseer's dawn bellow. As you rise, Amun nudges you, his voice low. Keep your ears open tonight. His words hang in the air, a thread to follow. The quarry awaits, but something else is stirring, something born in the dark. The quarry's dust still clings to your skin as you huddle in the camp's shadows, the night air sharp with the scent of straw and sweat. Firelight flickers from the guard's post, but here in the cramped corner where slaves gather, darkness is your shield. Amun's words from dawn echo in your head, keep your ears open, and now you're listening. Heart thudding as hushed voices weave plans that could mean freedom or death. You're not alone. Katie's beside you, his eyes wide but steady, and the woman from the quarry, the one who took the whip without a sound, kneels close. Her name's Neith. You learn, and her voice is a low rasp, carrying the weight of someone who survived worse than you can imagine. The talk is dangerous, forbidden. Whispers of rebellion ripple through the group, no louder than the rustle of palm fronds. Amun leads, his crooked nose barely visible as he outlines a planned sabotage. The sledges slow the work, make the overseers falter. It's not escape, not yet, but a way to claw back some control. You're new, so they watch you weighing your silence. Say nothing. Neith murmurs her gaze like a blade. You nod, swallowing the urge to ask questions. Trust is a currency you haven't earned, but you're here, and that's enough for now. Kiti shifts closer, his small frame tense, and you realise he's in deeper than you thought. The camp is a maze of mud brick huts, and this meeting is hidden in its heart behind a wall of stacked reeds. The air hums with risk. A single betrayer could bring the guards' spears. You notice the others 6 in all their faces gaunt but fierce. One, a broad-shouldered man named Seti, argues for bolder action steel tools strike at night. Amun counters, voice calm but firm that patience will outlast rashness. You're caught in the middle, your mind racing. The idea of defiance sparks something in you, but fear gnaws at it. The Overseer's whip is real. Rebellion is a gamble. A strange fact surfaces amid the tension. Egyptian slaves sometimes carve tiny hidden marks into the stones. They cut symbols of their names or gods as if to claim a piece of eternity. You wonder if you dare such a thing, leaving a trace of yourself in this crushing place. Historians still debate whether these marks were acts of rebellion or quiet prayers, but they feel like both to you. The discussion turns practical: how to loosen sledge ropes without being caught, how to feign accidents that delay the work. You're assigned a roll watch. The Overseer's movements note his habits. It's small, but it binds you to the group, and the weight of their trust settles on your shoulders. By midnight, the meeting dissolves, and you slip back to your mat, Ketty trailing you. He's quiet, but his earlier chatter about his sister feels heavier now, as if he's clinging to her memory to fuel his courage. You lie awake, the stars above mocking your smallness. The camp sounds, snores a distant cough, the creak of a guard's sandal keep you on edge. You're not a rebel, not yet, but you're no longer just a slave. The line you've crossed is invisible but real, and there's no stepping back. Dawn breaks and the quarry calls. You work with new eyes, scanning the Overseer as he strides along the ledge. He pauses to drink from a clay jug, always at the same hour, and you tuck the detail away. The pickaxe feels heavier today, each swing a reminder of the secret you carry. Nith works nearby, her chisel steady, and when your eyes meet, there's a flicker of understanding. Amun's words drift back patience. You strike the stone, the clink blending with the quarry's din, and you wonder how long patience can hold. The day grinds on, brutal as ever. Your hands blister, your back aches, and the sun scorches. Ketty struggles with a wedge, and you help him, your movements practice now. The Overseer's shout snaps you upright, but it's not aimed at you. Another slave caught idling takes the lash, and you flinch, the sound too close to your own fears. At dusk, you're back in the camp, eating gruel that tastes of ash. The rebellion spark burns low, but it's there, and you feel it in the glances shared with Nith and Amun. As you settle for sleep, Ketty whispers, "What if we're caught?" You don't have an answer. Only a hand on his shoulder. The night is thick with plotting, and tomorrow you'll watch the Overseer again. But for now you rest knowing the rebellion's first step lies in the shadows you've joined. Your hands knead the slick mud, its cool weight squishing between your fingers as you mix it with straw under the shade of a sagging reed canopy. The quarry's dust is a memory today. You've been reassigned to brickmaking, a task that trades back-breaking stone for soul-grinding monotony. The air smells of damp earth and rotting vegetation, and the hum of flies is a constant companion. You're knee-deep in a pit, surrounded by other slaves, their movements mechanical as they shape bricks for some unseen wall or storehouse. The Overseer here is different, less whip, more sneer, but his eyes miss nothing. You keep your head down. Your role as a watcher for Amun's quiet rebellion still fresh, though the chance to spy feels slim in this muddy corner. The process is simple but punishing: scoop mud mix, straw pack the mould, dry the bricks. Each step is a rhythm, you're learning, your arms aching from the repetitive press. Neith is here too, her hands deft as she stacks wet bricks to bake in the sun. She doesn't speak, but her presence steadies you. Kitty, reassigned with you, fumbles with a mould, his small hand slipping. "It's like making bread, but heavier," he mutters, and you smirk despite yourself. You show him how to pack the mud tighter, your fingers brushing the coarse straw. It's a small act, but it feels like creation, a fleeting defiance against the empire that owns you. The mud is your world now, its texture a map of your labour. You notice the straw's golden flecks, the way it binds the earth into something lasting. A woman nearby, her hair streaked with grey, hums a tune you don't recognise, and it's oddly comforting, like a heartbeat in the chaos. She catches your eye and winks. "Mud's honest," she says. "You don't lie about what it is." Her words stick a reminder that even here there's a kind of truth. You shape another brick, pressing it smooth and set it to dry, one more piece of Egypt's endless hunger for stone and mortar. A strange fact bubbles up as you work the Egyptians' mixed garlic into some bricks, believing it strengthened the bond, a quirk that leaves you wondering if your bricks carry the same faint tang. Historians still debate whether this was practical or ritual, but the idea of flavouring a wall amuses you, a secret only the mud knows. The sun climbs and sweat stings your eyes. Water is a shared gourd again passed with care, and you sip just enough to wet your throat. Keaty's struggling his pile smaller than yours, and you slide him a few of your bricks when the overseer's back is turned. He grins a flash of the boy he might have been. The rebellion simmers, though it's harder to feel in this pit. You watch the overseer noting his lazy habit of napping under the canopy at noon. It's a detail to share with the moon, but the spark of defiance feels distant when your world is mud and straw. Neath, though, hasn't forgotten. She brushes past you. Her voice a whisper. Sledges tomorrow. Be ready. Your pulse quickens. The plan to sabotage the quarry's sledges is alive, and you're part of it, even here. You nod, burying the moment in the rhythm of your work. By afternoon, your hands are raw, the skin cracked from wet mud and dry sun. The pile of bricks grows a testament to your labour, and you feel a strange pride in their neat rows. They're not stone, not eternal, but they're yours in a way. The overseer inspects the work, grunting approval, and for once there's no whip. You're learning the game work hard enough to avoid notice, but not so hard you break. At dusk, you're herded back to the camp, your legs caked with dried mud. The gruel is the same gritty and thin, but you eat slowly, savouring the act of sitting still. Ketty collapses beside you, his hands blistered. "Think these bricks will stand forever?" he asks, half serious. You shrug, picturing your work crumbling to dust or holding firm for centuries. Either way, it's out of your hands. Neath sits nearby, her eyes on the guard's fire, and you know she's thinking of tomorrow. Amun's nowhere to be seen, but his plan binds you all. As you lie on your mat, the stars above feel closer, and the air carries a faint whiff of garlic, or maybe it's your imagination. Sleep comes heavy and dreamless, but you know the morning will bring more than mud. It'll bring a chance to act. The air hums with the pulse of drums, a rare vibration that drowns out the usual grind of labour. Today the worksite is transformed a festival honouring the Nile's flood, a brief reprieve from the mud pits and quarry scars. You stand among the slaves, your bare feet dusted with sand, watching as priests in white linen lead a procession toward the river. The scent of incense mingles with the tang of fish and ripe dates, and for once the overseer's shouts are replaced by chants and laughter. You're still a slave, your wrists marked by rope burns, but the crowd's energy pulls you in a fleeting taste of something human. Keaty's at your side, his eyes bright with a child's hunger for joy, while Neith lingers nearby, her usual sharpness softened by the chaos. The festival is a spectacle, a collision of power and piety. Nobles in gilded sandals glide past, their coal-lined eyes ignoring you, while free labourers and artisans mingle with slaves in a fragile truce. You're handed a palm leaf woven into a fan, a small gift from the priests, and you clutch it like a talisman. Food stalls line the riverbank, offering barley cakes and roasted fish, and those slaves get the scraps, it's more than gruel. You share a cake with Keaty, its honeyed crust a shock of sweetness, and he grins crumbs on his chin. "Better than mud," he says, and you laugh, the sound foreign in your throat. The day unfolds in waves of ritual and revelry. You watch a dance, women swaying with lotus flowers tucked into their hair, their movements mirroring the Nile's flow. The crowd claps, and you join in, your hands stinging but alive. Yet the hierarchy is stark, slaves are barred from the temple's inner rites, left to worship from the fringes. Neath mutters about the priest's greed, her voice low, and you catch a glimpse of her anger, the same spark that fuels Amun's plans. The rebellion feels distant today, but it's there, simmering beneath the festival's sheen. You spot Amun in the crowd, his crooked nose catching the sunlight, and his quick nod reminds you of the sabotage sledges waiting for tomorrow. A strange fact weaves through the chatter. During festivals, some slaves were allowed to drink beer laced with mandrake, a plant said to blur pain and loosen tongues, though you're given only weak barley brew. Historians still debate whether these moments of leniency were kindness or control, a way to pacify restless workers. You sip the brew, its sour bite grounding you, and wonder if the mandrake would have dulled the ache in your shoulders or sharpened your resolve. The festival's joy is real but fleeting a mask over the truth that you're still bound your labour feeding the same gods these priests exalt. As the sun dips, the crowd gathers for a boat race, wooden skiffs slicing the Nile's surface. You cheer with the others caught in the thrill, but you notice the guards watching their spears glinting. Freedom is an illusion here even now. Keaty tugs your arm, pointing to a juggler tossing flaming torches, and you let his excitement pull you back. For a moment you're not a slave, just a person alive under a sky painted with dusk. Neith joins you, her silence companionable, and you realise these shared moments are weaving you tighter into the group rebellion or not. The festival ends with a hymn to the Nile, its words soaring over the water. You don't understand the language, but the melody sinks into you, a reminder of the river's power. As the crowd thins, you're herded back to the camp, the palm fan still in your hand. The gruel is waiting, but tonight it's paired with a scrap of fish, a festival mercy. You eat beside Ketty and Neith, the drums echo lingering in your ears. Amun sits nearby, his voice low as he speaks of tomorrow's work of sledges that'll fail under the overseer's nose. Your role as watcher feels heavier, now the festival's joy sharpening your hunger for something more. Sleep comes slowly, the camp alive with whispers of the day's sights. Keaty clutches a lotus petal he snatched from the ground, a small treasure. You lie on your mat, the stars above indifferent, and think of the Nile's flood, its promise and its threat. Tomorrow you'll return to labour, but the rebellion's pet spark burns brighter, fed by the festival's fleeting freedom. The river's song hums in your mind, pulling you toward a day when you'll face its wrath. The Nile's roar wakes you before dawn, a growl that shakes the earth beneath your straw mat. The air is thick with the scent of churned silt and panic, and the camp is alive with shouts. You scramble to your feet, Ketty already up, his eyes wide as he points to the river. It's swollen, its banks breached a muddy torrent clawing at the worksite where your bricks and stones wait. The flood has come early, defying the priest's star charts, and now everything your labour, the rebellion's plans, survival itself hangs in the balance. Neith's already moving, tying her tattered tunic tighter, while Amun's voice cuts through the chaos, urging calm. You're no stranger to the river's power, but this is different, a beast unleashed. The overseers are frantic, their usual seers replaced by barked orders to save the site. You're herded toward the water's edge where the flood has turned the quarry road into a swamp. Your feet sink into the muck, cold and grasping, as you join a chain of slaves hauling baskets of sand to shore up a crumbling embankment. The work is desperate, your hands slipping on the wet reeds, the current tugging at your legs like a living thing. Ketty struggles beside you, his small frame nearly lost in the chaos, and you pull him back when a wave surges too close. Stay sharp, you mutter, your voice barely audible over the river's din. The rebellion's plans sabotage sledges. Whispered defiance feel distant now, buried under the need to survive. Yet Amun seizes the moment, his crooked nose catching the torchlight as he directs slaves to reinforce a sledge path with loose stones, a subtle sabotage disguised as aid. You catch his eye, nodding, and shift a rock to weaken the track, your heart pounding. Nith works nearby, her hands steady as she piles sand, but her glance tells you she's in on it too. The overseers don't notice, too consumed by the flood's threat. It's a small victory, but it's yours, a spark of control in the chaos. A strange fact emerges amid the struggle. The Egyptians used Nile silt, not just for bricks, but to fertilise fields, turning floodwater into life, a cycle you're now fighting against. Historians still debate whether early floods like this one were seen as divine wrath or mere miscalculations, but to you it's raw power, indifferent to gods or men. The work shifts to salvaging bricks, your hands roar as you stack them on higher ground. The sun rises its heat, clashing with the water's chill, and sweat mixes with mud on your skin. You're exhausted, but stopping isn't an option. The overseer's whips are back, cracking over those who falter. Ingenuity saves the day, or at least delays disaster. A group of slaves led by a wiry man you don't know rigs a barrier of papyrus mats and wooden stakes to divert the flood's edge. You join them weaving reeds with a speed you didn't know you had your fingers bleeding, but sure. Keaty helps his small hands nimble, and for once, he's not the weakest link. The barrier holds barely, and the overseer grunts approval, a rare pause in his cruelty. You feel a flicker of pride not for the Empire, but for the people beside you, their sweat and cunning defying the river's wrath. By afternoon, the flood's peak ebbs, leaving a wreckage of silt and shattered tools. You're caked in mud, your muscles screaming, but the work site is intact mostly. The overseers count heads, their faces grim, and you realise some didn't make it swept away or crushed in the chaos. Katie's still here though, clutching a broken reed like a trophy. Neith's unharmed, her silence heavier now, and Amun's already planning the next move of his voice low as he talks of using the flood's damage to mask more sabotage. You're too tired to think it through, but you're inbound by the day's shared struggle. At dusk, you're back in the camp eating gruel that tastes of river grit. The air is quieter now, the Nile's roar a dull hum. You sit with Keaty and Neith, the stars above smeared by clouds. The rebellion's spark burns unfed by the flood's chaos, but you're starting to see the cost. Tomorrow you'll return to the work site to stones and mud, but also to something bigger, a legacy you're building willingly or not. The quarry's jagged edges blur in the dawn's haze, a familiar scar in the earth where you swing your pickaxe one last time. The air carries the faint tang of limestone dust and river silt, a reminder of the flood that nearly broke you. Your hands, calloused and scarred, move with a rhythm born of 100-day strike, pry repeat. Keaty works nearby, his mallet, steadier now while Neith chisels with a precision that hides her exhaustion. Amun's crooked nose catches the light as he hauls a rope, his quiet sabotage still alive in the loosened sledge tracks you helped rig. The rebellion hasn't sparked into flame, but its embers glow, a secret etched into every block you cut. You're not the same person who stood in the Nile's grip, wrists raw from ropes, eyes wide with fear. These days have carved you like the stone you shape into something harder, sharper. You see it in the others too. Katie's small frame holds a stubborn strength. Neith's silence masks a fire, and Amun's patience weaves a thread of hope. The work is brutal, but it's yours in a way. Each block you cut will stand in a temple or tomb, a piece of eternity you'll never see but can't help feeling. The Overseer's whip still cracks, but you've learned its rhythm, dodging its bite with a sidestep or a faster swing. A strange fact lingers as you work some slaves in secret mix their own hair into the mortar of great monuments, believing it tied their souls to the god's domain. Historians still debate whether this was defiance or devotion, but you understand the urge to leave a mark, however small. You pause, wiping sweat from your brow, and notice a faint carving on a block, a tiny ankh, the symbol of life scratched where no overseer will look. You don't know who did it, but it feels like a whisper from the group acclaim on this crushing labour. The day unfolds in familiar toil, but there's a shift in the air. The overseers speak of a new project, a grander tomb, and you realise your work here is just a fragment of Egypt's hunger for immortality. You're hauling a block onto a sledge when Ketty stumbles and you catch him, your arm steady. He mumbles thanks, his voice softer now, and you see his sister's absence in his eyes. Neith joins you, her chisel tucked away, and shares a dried fig from the festival, a small act that binds you tighter. Amun's nearby, his glance a reminder of the plan, slow the sledges bide your time. You nod your role as watcher, now second nature. As the sun dips, the quarry glows faintly, the limestone's breath of the gods shimmering under the twilight. You pause, struck by the eerie beauty, and wonder if the stones remember you. The march back to camp is quiet, your body aching but alive. The gruel is the same gritty and thin, but you eat slowly, savouring the moment with Katie, Neith and Amun. The stars wheel above and the air carries the Nile's distant hum. You're still a slave bound by ropes and whips, but you've built something else, a fragile community, a spark of defiance, a legacy in stone and sand. Sleep comes gently. The camp sounds, fading into a dream of the river, its current carrying you somewhere free. You wake to the overseer's shout, but it's softer today, or maybe you're just used to it. The quarry awaits, and with it the next step of Amun's plan. But for now you rise, your hands ready, your heart carrying the weight of 100 days. The quarry's dust settles in your memory, a faint haze that softens the edges of those relentless days. You see yourself standing in the Nile's grip mud, caking your feet, then swinging a pickaxe under the sun's glare, each moment a chisel shaping you. The rebellion spark kindled in whispered meetings never blazed, but it warmed you a quiet fire shared with Katie's stubborn hope, Naith's fierce silence, and Amun's patient cunning. Your hands, once soft, now bear the scars of bricks and stone, each callus a testament to survival. The Nile flows on its rhythm unbroken, carrying the weight of your labour to distant temples and tombs. You were a slave, yes, but also a builder, your sweat mixed with the earth's own breath. The stars you slept under, the garlic-tinged bricks, the hidden ankh, scratched in stone, they blur now like ripples fading on the river's surface. Egypt's grandeur endures, but so does your mark, however small, woven into its eternal stone. As the horizon softens, you feel the Nile's pull its current, a gentle whisper calling you to rest.